ride down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Monday. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving weekend. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I kind of ambivalent as to whether you ate turkey or not. I'd just as soon. Well, I don't give a shit what you eat. I eat beef, and we had a turkey, and it was all right, deep fried. And we had a fried elk steak too, which was pretty good. Deep fried. It was an elk roast, and then we did just your standard tri-tip on the grill, kind of half smoked, half grilled. But it was good, and I gotta say, as far as all that goes, not to toot my own horn too much, but the beef was the best part of it. So, yeah, if you had turkey, I hope it was edible. And, yeah, anyway, the holiday season's fully upon us, and, it's just been busy, and it's not slowing down for a little while. And, it's just that time of year, but also it's the time of the year NFR starts this week. And for the one time during the year, 10-day stretch where your average working rancher and cowboy gets to play, Monday. I guess it starts off as Friday morning quarterback because it starts on a Thursday, ends on a Sunday, a week and 3 days later or whatever. But you get to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all the way, all the days of the week, morning quarterback, except you're doing it from a place of true knowledge, and not that There's plenty of former football players that play Monday morning quarterback on years, and that's all well and good. When it's coming from a Cowboy standpoint, most of these guys that are playing Monday morning quarterback can rope, they can ride a bronc, and also a lot of those guys, should the rodeo competitor be put in their line of work, meaning going out to go punch cows out on the ranch every day, most of the time the ranch cowboy is going to outperform the rodeo cowboy in that environment. So we've got a little extra chip on our shoulder, and yeah, we could do that better. Maybe not do it better, but like you put them in our scenario, and hey, they wouldn't last a day in my shoes. Wouldn't last a day. But it's also it's a cool time to highlight rodeo, and it gets a lot of attention, not as much attention as we'd all like, and I guess for that matter, probably more attention than some of us would like. But it's a good time to highlight the American cowboy, even though it's not very representative of what your average cowboy is. It's still a good time. And I've never been to the NFR. I hear it's a great, grand old time. I just as soon not spend any more time in Las Vegas than I absolutely have to. The few times I've been there have not treated me all that well, and I just don't care to go back. But the NFR would be one reason for me to go back. I just haven't gone yet. Last year, of course, it was it Dallas or Arlington? Was it at Jerry World or was it at Rangers Stadium? I can't remember. That was the first time since 86, I believe. Yes, 86. I just looked that up. That it wasn't in Las Vegas, and now it's back in Las Vegas this year. And honestly, I don't see it going anywhere. Nevada's a pretty strict COVID state as far as the state regulations go. Not that many people pay much attention to them out here in these rural parts, but I think COVID be damned. They weren't going to miss out on NFR again this year. That's a lot of money. A lot of people kind of make the NFR their gathering point for the year to see old friends and family and whatnot. But anyway, it's back in Vegas starting this Thursday. We're going to do some live watch alongs at least one night. We'll see how it goes that first night. We might do some more. We'll see. But that'll be streaming live all on Facebook and YouTube and wherever else you get all the shit. We'll try to have something there, but won't be able to show the broadcast itself. But you can watch along with us, and we'll see what we can do. We'll try to do some cool stuff. But I wanted to talk about the history of rodeo. It's kind of considered the most American sport, and in a way it is. I don't know if you could say it truly originated in America, but then again, what did that we considered like truly American? As far as sports that originated truly in America, there's or in the Americas, there's like baseball. Not even really baseball, because that kind of was a derivative of cricket, which is an English sport. Hockey and lacrosse, I think, were probably truly American sports. A basketball, I guess, is a truly American sport. That was actually originated back in, it was the Aztecs down in Mexico. But rodeo originated really back in like the 1700s and the 1800s. And if we're going to be real technical, it is either a Spanish, I guess at that time would be a Mexican sport. When did Spain break off from Mexico? Probably right after the U.S. split off from England. So call it the late 1700s, early 1800s. So, however you classified, what we know as rodeo originated as competitions between different ranches back in old Mexico or Spain, now present day Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona, the American West. So while it might not be a truly American sport, it is a truly American Western sport. The Western Americas is kind of where it originated. But the early competitions were mostly horsemanship, roping, and bullfights. They had some bull riding events, but being it was all derived of Spanish heritage for the most part. You had some bullfights, and then the sport of bull riding originated around what I think the Spanish called them the modern day charros, but like charreada, I think is how they pronounced it, is what they were called. And then eventually it evolved into what the modern day sport of rodeo, which comes from the Spanish word rodear or rodear. and basically means to round up or to gather. And out here in these in like the Great Basin region, what you called hold and roe deer, you'd gather and you hold all your cattle in a bunch and you sort and brand from there. But that's called hold and roe deer, and which but all originates from rodeo. It means to gather. I guess my wife will probably correct me on that because she actually knows Spanish. And then I can tell her to shut up because I'm actually part Mexican. So that trumps in today's society. That trumps just the fact that I've got some. I'm a little bit ethnic, and that trumps. So there we go. My definition works. So anyway, it started as different ranches pitting the best vaqueros against each other. And then from there, really, it was after the Civil War and the big push westward in the U.S. that really spurred on the age of the cowboy, and that from I guess Civil War, so mid 1860s till about the mid 1870s. That was kind of the heyday of the American, like especially like the free range, open range American cowboy, where it was just people moving west and ranches being started left and right, and you're trailing cows from here to there to just help fuel the western migration. And I've said plenty of times on this show, like the cowboy has been a dying breed since it started because there's, it really kind of came into its own right about the time of the, in the heyday of the Industrial Revolution. So you had one of the oldest ways of doing something and herding cows, coming in contact, full head-on contact with just mechanization, technology, and as it's called, the Industrial Revolution. And at the time, it was a dying way of life because you had the locomotive, you had the trains, you had factories, and here you are out on the plains and in the western U.S., a guy on a horse with a rawhide rope and herding cows, and that was a dying way of life. Well, here we are 150 years later, and it's still a dying way of life. However, there's one aspect of rodeo that kind of, or I guess one man in particular that really kind of idealized the American rodeo, and that's Buffalo Bill Cody with his Wild West show. Well, it wasn't so much a rodeo as we know it nowadays. It was a showcase of the American West, the American frontier. And so there was wild horse races. There was, bucking broncos, if you will. But there was also shooting contests. And then there was also the worst parts of American society. And that's like, hey, here's these Indians that we just beat into submission. But hey, come take a look at them. Here's Sitting Bull. And so there was that part of it, but it was just all parts of Western life. But it was kind of the precursor to, or I guess an evolution of where rodeo started. And it was a shift in the direction as towards the modern day rodeo. And those early competitions, like I said, there was a lot of roping and riding, but it was more, I would say it was more geared toward what we would call today as a ranch rodeo. where it was more of a team aspect, and it was more practical, everyday tasks, a lot like what you'd see at a ranch rodeo today, where Buffalo Bill capitalized on what he already saw was a dying way of life, and instead of just trying to not only just save what was there, but to make others feel or to sense the value of it, and in doing so, he created that just almost never ending vision of like the dying breed, and that's the Cowboys. So I guess maybe that's maybe I should rephrase my statement that the Cowboy has been a dying breed since the Wild West show. I guess is kind of where I see as the American West taking on that nostalgic view, and that's kind of where it started, was the Wild West show. But from there, it got a little more fine-tuned, and these things were starting to pop up all over the place, and particularly they centered around the 4th of July. It's Independence Day, and that seemed to be when people would hold their gatherings, and though the 4th of July just was kind of a natural gathering time, and there's a lot of old rodeos, but the ones that really kind of stand out, the first one, I guess the town that really kind of takes hold of the claim of the first like organized rodeo is Deer Trail, Colorado, just east of Denver. And that one was said to have taken place in 1862. And then as far as the first annual rodeo, or the, I guess another one that kind of holds that title is Prescott, Arizona, which said was started in 1888, and that might have been the first one that paid or for a cash pot. Cheyenne Frontier Days was 1897. Pendleton Roundup was 1910, and the Calgary Stampede was 1912. The first year all of those happened. But it really wasn't until the 30s when we really saw like the modern sport of rodeo take place. And so it was in, let's see, it was the Rodeo Association of America. And started in 1929. This was a group of rodeo producers, and they formed to standardize rules, establish a point system to determine world champions, monitor judges, and establish fair practices in awarding prize money. And of course, seeing how that this association was made up of like stock contractors and the event or the venues and the people that put on the rodeos themselves, this caused a big backlash from the contestants, which were for the most part working cowboys, and the Rodeo Association of America, good point. Before they standardized everything, it was a lot like boxing, where you had several different titles, and so you could be a world champion in this promotion, but not in that one. And so you could have 4 or 5 different world champions walking around, and none of them ever compete at the same rodeo. So they decided to standardize it, and Well, seeing how the people that organized it were the people putting it on, they're going to try to make the most money that they can. And it got to the point where they weren't paying out much of anything, and they were making a lot of money because rodeo was and still is a very popular sport. Always has been. When it comes to town, people show up, and these producers were putting on or were making a lot of money, and the Cowboys were barely, much like today, at least the ones that are on like your smaller circuits, barely eking out a living. So on October 30th, my birthday by chance, 1936, 61 Cowboys banded together and voted to strike against the Boston Garden Rodeo, which is a big rodeo, and it was all over the amount of prize money. And then 3 years later, on November 6th, 1939, they formed the Rodeo Cowboys, or the Cowboys Turtle Association. And this basically became a cowboy union, a rodeo cowboy union. We've talked about cowboy unions before and how hard they are to put together, but this was one of them, and it actually kind of took. And they called themselves the Cowboys Turtle Association because, like a turtle, they were slow to act. They were, this was 7 years after the Rodeo Association America formed. 7 years it took them to call this strike or whatever. And so they said they were slow to act, but once they did act, they were not afraid to stick their necks out. And eventually they changed the name to the Rodeo Cowboys Association, which later morphed into the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, the PRCA, which we know today. And initially, in some of these early rodeo events, the women just competed right alongside the men. There wasn't women's events. It was just there were the events, and if there were women there, they competed in an event just like the men did. And some of them won, some of them didn't, and kind of a low point in the Professional Rodeo Association or the timeline of professional rodeo was, I believe it was in Pendleton, during the bronc riding. A woman got killed. I think a horse turned over in the chutes and broke her back or something. And from there on, they kind of started outlawing women in the rodeo, and so then it took a few years, but it was like 1948 when the Women's Rodeo Association was formed. Yeah, 1948. They called it the Girls Rodeo Association. Later changed it to the Women's Professional Rodeo Association, what we know today. And eventually they got barrel racing sanctioned as a sport within professional rodeo. And I can't recall if Breakaway is in the NFR this year, but I know it was at Reno Rodeo. So that I don't. I guess I could look that up real quick. But the sport has morphed and changed a lot over the year, and then once PRCA really took off, became popular. Well, then the ranch cowboys felt like they were kind of getting neglected, and let's see, breakaway roping. NFR. Oh. Looks like yeah. It's a 2-day event, though. Let's see. So, Wrangler National Finals breakaway roping in conjunction with WNFR. Women ropers will compete for the 2021 World Championships. Breakaway roping and a $200,000 purse at this 2-day event. So it's just a 2-day deal, but it's not part of the 10-round NFR, I guess. Huh. All right. So it sounds... So they're doing like the NFR. So it's top 15 people, but it's only a 2-day 10-round. So it's still a 10-round deal, but I wonder why that's not part of the main rodeo. Huh. So they're going 5 rounds on the 6th and 5 rounds on the 7th. Weird. So that's probably going to be part of the main show here pretty soon, I would imagine. But anyway, the women in the sport of rodeo goes all the way back to, as far as organized stuff, Annie Oakley was part of the Wild West show. There's been plenty of women bronc riders throughout the years, and now there's some. Well, they're not heavily, a big focus of the NFR itself. Out, they just got the barrel race, and there are some really, really handy women out there nowadays, and I guess there probably always were, but it seems like more often than not, you can find some really ropey or really sticky women out there. So I don't know. It's I've always found rodeo kind of interesting or just intriguing. Like I enjoy watching a good rodeo, but like a lot of stuff that revolves around cowboying, it gets very, very commercialized and strays quite a ways from the origins. And there's nothing against rodeo guys, but more often than not, when you find you meet somebody who's like that rodeos for their living, a lot of times they don't make the best the best actual cowboys, and it's, I don't know, it's one of those weird they're kind of in a weird position because the sport that they compete in also is derived directly from day-to-day life and a job, as opposed to like baseball. Baseball came out of sheer boredom, or football, same thing. It wasn't guys doing their job competing against each other. It was guys bored with their jobs, and they created something else to compete against themselves, or compete against each other. Where cowboying started out with like this ranch saying like, my cowboys are better than your cowboys, and that probably started from that ranch's cowboys saying like, hey, your buddy, like, I bet I can throw a loop from here to there. And the other guy said, I can throw a loop from here to there too, but I can make it turn over. The other guy says, well, I can do that on this young horse, and that horse is going to be bucking, and I can still do that. That's how it all evolved. And then as you see the PRCA take off, and the ranch cowboys feel like they get neglected, well, then they start their own rodeo promotion, and not even their own rodeo promotion, but they start their own new going. That's air quotes for everybody on audio, doing air quotes here. New form of rodeo, where they go back to more day-to-day type situations where you and they start the ranch rodeo, which really was like what the rodeo started out to be. But now we got a trailer loading. Back in the 1700s, there were no pickups, let alone trailers. So you didn't really have a trailer loading competition. So it's an evolution of the old ranch rodeo, but it's not new. But that's what we called. But it's a very free market way of thinking. And it's like, well, instead of trying to continue being a working cowboy and compete with these guys that rodeo for a living, then you say, well, hell with them. We'll start with that. That's not how it works out here on the ranch anyway. So we get the best ranch guys out there. Well, now the WRCA finals in Amarillo, talking with Boots here the other day. And once again, thanks to everybody that stopped him and told him that you enjoyed hearing him on the podcast. That was pretty cool. He's told me about that a couple times now. But talking with him, he said there was 10,000 people there at the WRCA finals. So that's a pretty big deal. You have the Western States Ranch Rodeo finals right around that same time up in Winnemucca, and I don't think they have 10,000 people that go there, but that's a pretty big deal too, and it's just pretty cool how all those things come together. And then even outside the PRCA, you had the PBR, which branched off of that because the bull riders got butthurt because they felt like they were bringing in all the spectators and only getting a limited amount of the purse. So they started their own so that the bull riders would get more money. And now that's like that's got to be $1 billion industry nowadays. And you have one of the best in the world over there, JB Mooney, that's now coming back to PRCA because he feels like PRCA is more towards the roots of rodeo. And then even within all of that, you have like the CBR. You've got all the little state rodeo associations. You got college rodeo. You got Little Britches rodeo, and it's just it's funny how, and even within all that, you have different sports. You had the bull riding, obviously PBR, CBR, but you got the you got the World Series team roping. You got the U.S. Team Roping Association. You got the ACTRA Team Roping Association. You got the Feedlot Cowboys team roping. You've got all these different associations, and it's all based on I more often than not, it's based off of your geography, but all these different associations compete with each other, and a lot of cowboys are members of different associations, and it's very much a market-based economy, I guess. How it all works, it's all based on supply and demand, and no, it's kind of cool. Rodeo is really, really unique on all that, and one of those. It's one of the few sports where you can keep going. Like there's definitely the young man's game and all the rough stock work where saddle bronc, bareback, and bull riding. You got a pretty you got a pretty limited window of when you can compete, much like most of your other professional sports. Shit takes a toll on your body, but there's also events within that sport, say team roping, where Speed Williams and Speed and Rich Skelton and Speed Williams, shit, they were in their 60s, still going to NFR every year. so there's different events within that sport where guys can last a long time, and then there's like those Iron Man characters, like the Billy Epbauer. Well, he was in his 40s still riding saddle broncs and doing it well, winning the world. So there's a few of those, but for the most part, those rough stock events, that's a young man's sport, but there's those guys that hang in there forever. But you get onto the roping side of things, and especially team roping, guys hang around forever. And the same way on the barrels, there's like Sherry Servey and Charmaine James, who were my buddy Clint has. I remember back in high school, he had the biggest crush on Charmaine James. He thought she was the hottest woman alive, and I thought she was okay. But I will say, in his credit, she did hold up well. She looked the same age for about 30 years. I don't know what she looks like nowadays, but I don't know. It's kind of a cool time of year just because all those associations, it all kind of filters into the lead up, the build up to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. And that's the top 15 every year. Go at it for 10 days, and every one of those rounds has a big pot attached to it. And there's guys and gals every year that make it to the NFR, not in the top 10 in their standings, and come back and either make a run for the world title or sometimes even and win one outright. And it's just to get to the NFR is a big, I mean, that's a big accomplishment. You gotta be really good at what you do, because it's all based on how much money you won. And it's this isn't a rodeo podcast, but there's sometime I wouldn't mind getting somebody who's really made that NFR run, more than just once, but like how you plan into that, because you gotta hit the big money rodeos. And also, I don't know, I'm sure there's somewhat of a formula to it, but I think it's kind of like fall works or cabin season or whatever busy time of year it is. You have a good plan going into it until it happens, and then you just go. And it seems like a lot of the guys that really make a run at it rodeo, and it seems to be kind of the way it is for them too. They got a plan of how they're gonna do shit this year, and then once that run starts, you're just on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. You just go. And I don't know, but it all culminates in Vegas here Thursday, and it's a fun one to watch. I also like hearing stories from well, it's like I've said before, I don't go to the rodeos so much anymore to watch the rodeo. I go to see people I haven't seen in a while, or to hear stories and whatnot. So that's also one of the best parts of NFR, is just hearing stories from people who went out to Vegas and found out they couldn't handle Vegas. And those are always some really, really funny stories. So I'm going to try to get some good people on to help do this watch along thing, and we'll provide our own commentary. We'll if the action gets a little dull, we'll have some stories to tell in the meantime. But I think it's going to be fun. We'll see how it works on Thursday, and if it's worth doing, we'll try to do some more of them. But I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are, and I'm gonna try to work in. I've done a little bit of gambling on like football and stuff, so I'm not sure how the lines work on rodeo, but I'm gonna do a little research. Yeah, we might add that into it as well. See how, because I'm not sure exactly how you bet on rodeo. So we'll find out. I'll do some research and we'll find out. So, anyways, I think that starts at 7. Let's see. NFR 2021. I know it starts Thursday, and I believe it starts at 7 Pacific time, so it'd be 8 Mountain, 9 Central. Just gonna double check that real quick. But pretty sure that's all right. So no, it starts at 5:45. All right, so that starts early, 5:45 Pacific, so that's 7:45 Central. So it'll be I'll have to boogie to get shit done and ready to go on Thursday, but we'll get it. Don't worry, and we'll be here watching it with you. So until then, should do. I'm not sure what Aaron's schedule is this week, but we'll have a Fence Post Politics one way or the other. And anyhow, I enjoy rodeo. I hope you guys do too, and hope you had a good Thanksgiving. And we'll see you later this week. So thanks for tuning in, and move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.